Will I get vaccinated for COVID in Bangalore as a foreigner living in India? Well, in this video, I'm going to go over the topic explaining why a vaccine is necessary in the first place. After that, I'm going to get into what kind of vaccines are available right now in India and what the criteria are for getting a vaccine. Next to that, I'm going to explain the pros and cons of a vaccine in my opinion. And finally, I'm going to give my view on why I'm getting a vaccine or not. So make sure to stick around until the end. Hi, my name is Ivana and I live in Bangalore. Recently, it was announced that as of May 1st, everybody in India above the age of 18 is eligible for a COVID vaccine. If you have been following any news about India or live in India yourself, you may have heard that things have gotten quite out of control. But I'm getting ahead of myself because first, I think it's important to discuss why a vaccine for COVID is necessary in the first place. However, before we get into this, a hardcore disclaimer: I am not a medical professional, so all the views and opinions expressed in this video are my own. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get into why a vaccine is necessary in the first place. Obviously, also before I came to India, I had to get a lot of vaccines. I had to get the vaccines for hepatitis A, B, typhoid. I even got one for Japanese encephalitis. I got one for rabies. I got all the shots. From what I have understood about vaccines, what happens is when you get a vaccine, you only get a very little portion of a disease or a virus. Now, because it is only a very small dose, you will not get completely sick the way you would with an unregulated dose in the outside world. However, that small dose is already enough to put your body and your immune system into action to start developing antibodies. So yes, you might feel feverish and you might get sick after getting the vaccine, but that's just your body learning how to produce antibodies and how to fight that disease. Now, if you do happen to catch that disease or virus after you have been administered a vaccine, then your body already has a recipe on how to fight that disease, and your chances of getting through that disease without dying increase significantly. A specific note on COVID vaccines is that they use mRNA technology, which gives certain instructions to your DNA, but the outcome is the same as with traditional vaccines. They teach your immune system how to fight the virus without being fully exposed. I've linked some useful videos below if you want to know more details. This is, I think, vaccines in a nutshell. What I think bothers a lot of people who don't actually understand how vaccines work is that you can still get COVID after getting the vaccine, or that you still have to wear a mask after getting the vaccine. Having that defense system already put in place before you actually get, showered with a huge dose of the COVID virus, make sure that you at least have a fighting chance against the virus if you get sick and don't die. I hope that clears up a little bit of the confusion if you had it about why a vaccine is necessary and how it actually protects you. So what kind of vaccines are currently available in India and what kind of vaccine can you get as a foreigner? As to my knowledge, right now there are two vaccines available in India. One is Covaxin, which is the Indian vaccine and which is still in clinical trial phase 3, which means that it's actually still being tested. Then the second vaccine that is available is Covishield, and this one is from AstraZeneca. Both of these vaccines need to be administered in 2 times with a 28-day period in between. Right now in India, already 135 million people have been vaccinated, and out of those 135 million, 17 million have already received the second dose of the vaccine. The two vaccines that are available have been proven incredibly efficient. I think Covishield is 90% efficient and Covaxin is 80+% efficient. Also, the statistics of getting COVID after getting the vaccine are incredibly promising. I think only 0.03% of the people who has been administered Covishield will get COVID after getting that vaccine, and with Covaxin it's only 0.04%. I mean, those percentages are incredibly low. Currently in India, you don't have a choice which vaccine you can get. It's take it or leave it, whichever one is available. Now, how can you get a vaccine in Bangalore as a foreigner or as a foreigner living in India? From what I have heard from my Indian friends who have expat friends, it is possible if you have a PAN card or PAN number. That's basically a social security number and proof that you actually legally live in India. I have that. I am legally here. I've also heard from official government bodies that if you are living in India legally, that you are eligible for a vaccine in India. Obviously, there is a moral question there. Do I, as a foreigner, have a right to an Indian vaccine? Because obviously, I am not a citizen of this country. Now, I think there are two perspectives to this moral question. One is, if I do get a vaccine, I am taking a vaccine away from an Indian national. However, if I do get a vaccine, it might also decrease my chances of getting sick and having to claim a hospital bed from somebody who might need it a lot more than me. Also, if I do get a vaccine, the chances of me spreading the virus decrease significantly. Obviously, I completely understand the sentiment from both perspectives. However, looking at the current situation in India and also how the vaccine is being distributed, I think it would be best for everybody, and actually India would even benefit from me taking a vaccine and decreasing the chances of me getting sick significantly and not having to claim a hospital bed from somebody who needs it. What I mean by that is that right now I think keeping more hospital beds available is more important than saving one vaccine here. But if you disagree with me, I completely respect that and I completely understand that. Now let's look at the pros and cons of the vaccine. The pros, I think, are very significant. If you take the vaccine, you reduce your chances of getting sick so much. And I think that's important because, first of all, I think we all want to live another day, but also you are not taking up a hospital bed from somebody who might be having a heart attack or maybe some kind of other very urgent medical condition who might actually need an ICU bed instead of you getting COVID. Then I think it's also important to break that whole chain of infection. By you not getting COVID anymore, you are also not getting other people infected anymore, which means the whole healthcare system gets to breathe again, at least a little bit more. Looking at the cons, obviously you might get a little bit sick. I've heard from people that they get very stiff muscles or they get a fever. They're basically usually sick for 5 to 10 days. I think that is a very, very small sacrifice during these times. Of course, you also have to think about the side effects, but I think having already vaccinated 135 million people in India, I'll take those chances over me getting COVID. And with that, we have arrived at the conclusion. For me, the choice is extremely clear. If I do get the opportunity to get a vaccine, I will get vaccinated. If you guys like it, I will also vlog that whole process for you and how I feel after that. Of course, I respect anybody else's opinion who doesn't think vaccination is a good idea. That is your right. It is your body and it's your choice, whatever you want to do with it. But I think the vaccine by now has been, both of the vaccines that are currently available in India have been tested more than enough to prove that the risks of taking the vaccine are so minimal compared to the benefits that the vaccine will bring you and the people around you. Because that's the whole problem with COVID right now. It's not about you getting sick. It's about you taking up somebody else's hospital bed who might actually need it. It's about the whole healthcare system being completely overloaded up to a point where doctors even don't get to see their families. And I think it would be extremely selfish from my perspective to not get a vaccine if I do get the opportunity to offer myself the protection, but particularly the people around me. Of course, I would love to hear your thoughts about this. Maybe you have already been vaccinated or somebody around you. What are your experiences? What are your opinions about this topic? Let me know down in the comments below. If you found this video helpful and you think it might help other people understand how vaccines work and what the benefits of it are, please feel free to share this video as much as you like. If you're interested, you can also consider subscribing to my channel and joining 225,000 subscribers who get a notification whenever I post a new video. Also, consider putting a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!